Hello besties, I wanted to give an overview of my first couple Whatnot shows, share how they went, kind of what my hourly rate was, and offer some advice for new sellers. I had multiple people reach out of, hey, I'm thinking about starting Whatnot too, like share your experience, share how it is. So wanted to put together a quick little video for you all. So, if you follow me, I'm really into financial transparency. So let me just jump into the numbers. My first Whatnot show, I did an activewear show, and I think I gave people about a 3-day heads up. So Whatnot, I joined their seller onboarding call. Some people said it was like an interview when they did it. I filled out a quick little survey, and then there was a Zoom call with a bunch of people. There were like 80 people in that call. Like, they had a lot of people joining. A lot of people are still joining Whatnot. It's not too late for you. And the onboarding call was really just, here's, how to add items, how to start an auction, those kinds of things, and then some random tips, rules that they have. And currently they have a promotion for new sellers where if within a week of that onboarding call, you go live for at least 2 hours, do $150 in sales to at least 5 buyers, they will give you an extra $150. So that was kind of a little bit of an incentive of me to, okay, let me actually schedule a show after this onboarding call. I gave people about a 3 days heads up of I'm doing an activewear show, and I picked that because I had a lot of activewear and I had men's and women's. So I thought, I can get more people that way. But I will say within that show, it was definitely majority women still. If you follow me on Instagram, Whatnot and the onboarding call, they shared a way to do a practice show. And you have a show scheduled, and you can switch it to private, and hypothetically you can join and like practice like setting things up for auction. But if anyone has already pre-saved that show, even when you change it to private, they can still join. And that's what happened when I tried to do it. Here's a clip of that. Guys, I thought this was a practice show. I thought I made it private. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this. So anyways, if you're wanting to do a practice show, create a brand spanking new show the moment of, set it to private, and then start the show immediately and click through everything there. So in that first activewear show, I did $155 in sales. So right away I hit that $150 to 5 unique buyers. Boom. I was live for about an hour. So I had pulled out over 40 items, pre-added them to the show, and then ran them. A lot of them I priced of like, okay, I'll price it so I would like profit $1 if it only sold at the starting price. And I will say for my first show, a lot of items were only selling at the starting bid. I didn't have like a ton of items that were getting bid up or people like bidding against each other. I think it said my max viewers in that show at a time was 26. So like, even though I had, 50 people pre-save the show, they weren't all in there at the same time. So I had spent probably like 2 hours deciding what to add to this show, like going through and listing it. And I only added one picture and a very simple description. So it wasn't like the amount of work that I would put into listing on Poshmark. It was a little bit faster than that, but I would say I was still pretty slow at it because it was new for me, just learning how to do that. So probably spent like 2 hours beforehand, an hour during the show, and then probably about an hour packaging up. Not quite actually. So I sold 20 something items. Like, I was not selling them for a ton. So after fees, the payout from that is $130.11. And then after you subtract my cost of goods, my gross profit was $44.66 on my first Whatnot show. where if you think about, I spent 3 to 4 hours like working on this, that is like $11 to $15 an hour that I was making. So not great, definitely not great. But when I had shared that I was having my first show, Drew from Profit Monsters, he sent me a DM. He's like, hey, don't base your whole perspective of Whatnot off of your first show. And I was like, okay, good to know. So at that point, I was like, I still need to go live for another hour to get the extra $150. And like, obviously that show didn't go super well, but now I have one under my belt. I have more, I know more. And also in that first show, Michaela from Finer Threads had commented of, I would like hold up an item, start the bid, and then I would like move the item or like hang it back up. And she was like, hold it up the whole time that your auction is running in case someone joins while it's running, they can bid on it. They know what is for sale. And I was like, okay, good to know. So that was a tip I received. And then Abby of Abby and Honey, I've actually met her in person before. She had messaged me before the show. She was like, hey, are you going to number your items? And I was like, what? And so when I was adding them to my show, I was just putting a title of like Adidas Purple Shorts XL. And she was like, if you put like number 1 Adidas Shorts Purple XL, people in the chat can be like, oh, we want to see number 1, instead of having to type out the whole thing. And so I was like, okay, that's good to know. So I went through and numbered everything. I asked if I needed to number them like in person on my hangers, and she was like, some people do. You probably don't have to if you think you'll be able to like find the item easily enough. So I just numbered them on Whatnot, and that worked out pretty well. That was a really good tip. So then I planned a second show. I planned a show for dresses, and I was like, okay, this time I'm going to limit my prep work to like an hour. I'm not going to spend more than an hour preparing for this show, knowing that my hourly rate was not that great last time. So my second show, I ended up doing $102 in sales. I did reach that extra hour, so I will get that extra $150 payout, but I'm not including that here in my profit or anything. So after fees, that $102 comes out to $85.44 in what I will get paid out. And after my cost of goods, I was much smarter this time. I picked a lot of cheaper items, things from the bins, things I got for free, and that really helped here. My profit was $60.79. So my profit was higher even though my total sales were lower. And I was like, okay, this is better. Still $60 for probably 2.5 hours of work this time. What does that come out to? That's like $24 an hour. So that is significantly better. In that show, I want to shout out Philly Flipper because he bought a bunch of stuff from me. And like, it was a dresses show, and he's not gonna wear dresses. He is like totally gonna buy them to like sell them on his own Whatnot. And I was like, I genuinely hope you make a lot of money. Props to him. He is like one of the few resellers that I feel like is really killing it in terms of like actual sales and also on social media. So give him a sub if you see him. So then also my boyfriend's sister had just started selling on Whatnot as well. Here's her deals for days. And she had reached out to me. She was like, follow this girl, Julie Becker, on Whatnot. She does these new seller chats, like maybe once or a couple times a week. And so I joined one of those. It's a place where new sellers can ask questions. You can comment in the chat of like, hey, I'm having my first show, and people will go pre-save it, which is really nice. So you can get some more followers there. And also just like ask some questions. I was like, how many items should I really have in my first show? And she didn't give me an exact number, but she was like, you want a good range of sizes. And for a first show, you want things preloaded so people know what to expect because they don't have any idea of what you're going to be showing. So when I went to Posh Fest, they were talking about Posh shows, and they said your best bet is to chit chat for 15 minutes to give people time to join your show and then start selling when more people are there. You don't want to start your show at 6 o'clock and immediately like auction off an item because people are still going to be joining. So I kept that in mind. I like tried to, chat, maybe not for 15 minutes, but maybe like 5 minutes at the beginning. And that part was always so awkward. I felt like because when people are first joining, like they're not really sending messages in the chat, where it's just like a hey. And so I don't know, come with some icebreaker questions, come with a good story to share to like get people involved in the chat, and then they like want to stay. That part felt a little awkward. Watch out for that. But I will say I felt like I sold the most items in maybe like the first 15 to 45 minutes. And then I think things slowed down at the end when like the best stuff was gone. So I would get to a point where I was like, okay, people are leaving. I have like 11 people left here. I'm just gonna call it. So also don't feel like you have to go live for the first time for like 3 or 4 hours like some people are. And after that, I did watch a couple other people's streams. I'm like, okay, what is their strategy here? Because there's no way other people are doing this and only making like $11 to $20 an hour. Like that's not totally worth it. So I watched Rinzi's show, and Rinzi is like this reselling power couple in Maine. But I was watching Ryan auction off some hoodies, and they were new with tags. He had multiple of them. So he'd put up this hoodie, he'd be like, okay, starting this at $39. He was starting his items higher. And then like people would bid on it. He'd ask them what size they want, and he'd write that down. And then he'd be like, okay, I'm running this again. Here are the sizes I have left. And so because he had multiples of the same thing, it was like much better for him, I think. And also he was starting things much higher to like make a profit, more than like a couple dollars on things like I did. And the fees on Whatnot, it's 8%, and then you have a processing fee that's 2.9% plus 30 cents. So it's not that bad. It does, your payouts for a sale do vary based on like taxes of where that person is, or shipping, one or the other, because I would sell something for $5 and like my earnings would be $4, $4.04, $4.15. So it's not constant like on Poshmark, where if you sell something for $10, your payout's $7.05 always. It does vary a little bit. So on my first show, I didn't know that. I thought I did the math on everything correctly. And there were 3 things that I sold at a small loss, actually. I was like, okay, well, that was dumb. So then for my second show, I was like, okay, let me price things where like I'm gonna profit more than just $1 on this if it sells at the initial price. So I was smarter about that. For the length of the auction, that was something that I also wasn't super sure about. Obviously, you don't want to set it for like a minute and have only 10 people there and like wait around staring at you. So I think on my first show, I did 20 seconds, and on my second show, I did 30 seconds, which I think 30 seconds was enough where people could like bid back and forth a bit more. Like it wasn't too short, it wasn't too long. So just play around with that is what I would say, because also it depends on what you're selling and who's watching your show. So all of that to say, I don't know if Whatnot is going to become like, oh my gosh, I love this platform, I'm going live every night kind of thing, unless I start getting pallets with like multiple things or like a ton of cheap inventory. I don't know if it makes sense for like a lot of the stuff that I'm selling, but I was like, there are some cases where like if you thrift a bunch of stuff and it's all really cheap and you're like trying to clear out some space, I think it was really good for that. There were a few items that I hadn't listed yet in the dresses category, and I was like, I'm just gonna put them in my Whatnot show, get rid of them. Like, obviously if I haven't listed this item and I've had it for a year, like just get rid of it. So in that case, it was really good. If you have some older things that you're like, I know this is good, but it's like not getting any attention, definitely try throwing it up on Whatnot. And one last thing, you can add a moderator. I hate asking people for favors, so I did not want to ask anyone to do that, but Abby of Abby and Honey, she like volunteered to do it. I was like, that is so nice. And so as people were talking in the chat, she would take note of like, oh, we want to see number 13, we want to see 27, and she would like comment that again just in case I missed it the first time. So that was really helpful. And then your moderators can also kick people out of the show if they're like being bad. In my first show, I had someone message me during the show, and I like only saw a preview and I like swiped it away. I was like, whatever. It was this guy being like, oh, I'm in your show, I don't want to put it in the chat, but like, do you have any lingerie for my wife? I'm like, get out of here, you weirdo. Like, no. And the thing was, I went to his profile and like he had sold stuff on Whatnot. Like he was a seller. I was like, ew, go. So anyways, I have heard of people having trolls on the show. I don't think I was popular enough to like really have anyone causing any problems during the show, but I should get my extra $150 from Whatnot, meaning my profit will be $255, which is a lot better than those first few shows. So if you're thinking about trying Whatnot, definitely give it a try. Learn from some of my mistakes. Make your own mistakes and learn from those. So yeah, if you're thinking about joining Whatnot, I have a referral link in the chat. I don't know what you get if you use my referral link, but I think if I refer a seller, I get like an extra $100. So if you're on the fence, try it out, use my code. That would be so nice if you would use mine. And if you're looking to buy something on Whatnot, I also have a referral code for that. That is like such an easy way to support creators using their referral code. So please, that'll be so nice. If this was helpful for you, please like and subscribe. If you are planning your first Whatnot show, comment your Whatnot username below, or if you go live often, leave any other tips in the comments. I'm sure that would be so helpful to sellers who find this video. Thank you so much for watching. Love you. Bye.